on JG9 News, we have a lot of new videos out. Make sure to check the link in the description to find out more and subscribe now to JG9 News. And now, on with our feature presentation. Don't worry, I didn't forget about this play. This deserves its own video. I'm not going to dive too much into the stakes here since I already did that in my last episode of Dumb Decisions, seeing as this is a double header of dumbness for Dan Campbell. So if you didn't see that one, you can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. However, by this point in the NFC Championship, the Lions, after completely forgetting how to play football with drop passes and fumbles and missed tackles, almost like the scene in Space Jam where the NBA players just lose their talent instantly, find themselves down 34-24. Somehow, after being up 24-7 at the half and looking unstoppable, they're now down by 2 scores. Again, they would not be in this mess if Dan Campbell just did the smart thing and took the points when he could get them, like he did at the end of the first half. But regardless, this was the mess that Detroit was in now, and they had to find a way out of it. Even despite all of that, down by 10 points, they've still got a shot to win this. Seriously, I know they're down by 2 scores, but they have the ball at the 1-yard line, and there's 1:05 left, and they have all of their timeouts. It is not out of the realm of possibility here that you come back. All you need to do is score, get a stop defensively, and then drive about 30 yards to get a game-tying field goal and force overtime. You don't even have to rely on an onside kick. You can preserve your timeouts, kick it off deep, get a stop, and have a legitimate chance to win the ball game. So on 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line, the plan is simple. Throw the ball into the end zone so that if it's incomplete, the clock stops and you don't have to burn a timeout. Whatever you do here, just don't run the ball. Running the ball, if it doesn't work, would be disastrous. The clock would run, it would force you to burn a timeout, and it would all but end the game. Just don't run the ball. Just don't run the freaking ball.
They give it to Montgomery. He is swarmed! That's the problem with running it.
Dan, are you actually kidding me? You did the one thing you couldn't do! You literally did the one thing that you could not do in this situation! Now, you have to onside kick it when you score, and if you don't recover, the game is over, because you don't have enough timeouts left to stop the clock! I give up, Dan. I give up. You coached a crappy game. Let's just get this over with.
Badgley gets into it high in the right. It's loose. Ball loose. Kittle's going to pick it up, and that'll be that.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this could possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell. I think everyone's talking about the decision to go for it on 4th and 2 and 4th and 3, which, don't get me wrong, both of those decisions were incredibly moronic and incredibly stupid, and were some of the worst decisions of the season by any coach. But this was way worse. This was a million times worse. This will be the thing that gets forgotten about in NFL history 5 years from now, but this was one of the dumbest plays in the history of the NFC Championship, and I do not say that lightly. It's up there on the Mount Rushmore of suck, with the Rams running out the clock at the end of the first half in 1985, and the Packers kicking a field goal down by 8 with 2 minutes left in 2020. This decision made no sense at all, and shows just how bad Campbell is from an in-game management standpoint. So with that being said, let's take a look at why calling a running play on 3rd and goal in that spot is a really bad idea. And before I go any further, just to further illustrate how bad Campbell is at this, besides the obvious of the bungling of the clock against Tampa Bay last week, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, I want to highlight this play from the first half that meant nothing, but shows how stupid Campbell can be. After the Lions get stuffed short of the goal line, it brings up 4th and goal, where the Lions decide to try the field goal, which, again, I thought was the right call. Make it a 3-score game going into the half, and don't give the Niners any unnecessary momentum. But why would you call a timeout with 10 seconds left? Why not call it with 4 or 3 seconds left? Why would you even risk the possibility of giving the Niners the ball back on a kickoff return, or a kickoff out of bounds, or risk a special teams injury, or anything along those lines? why not make this the final play of the half? It's not like this was on third down, so you're doing this as a contingency just in case there's a bad snap. It's fourth down. Either way, this is the last time you're touching the ball in the half. Let the clock run another 6 seconds. Again, it didn't matter in the end, although the Niners had a decent kickoff return negated by a penalty, so it could have. But it's the little things like that that make me wonder if Dan Campbell knows what he's doing. Which takes us to the run of infamy. Holy cow, the run of infamy. Let's think about this. You've got 3 timeouts left. An onside kick is almost impossible to recover under today's rules. You're recovering them about 6% of the time, and the Lions have not recovered one all season. It's just highly unlikely that it's going to happen, barring a complete miracle. But you've got all of your timeouts, which means the nice thing is that you don't have to onside kick it here. Either way, a first down for the 49ers ends the game if and when they get the ball back. So you have to think a few plays ahead here. You have to know that if you score a touchdown and don't burn any timeouts, that you can kick it off deep. And if you get a stop, you use all of your timeouts, and you get it back with about 40 seconds left, needing to go maybe 30 yards to get to field goal range. But it's obvious. You have to have those timeouts. Plain and simple, you have to have those timeouts. Anything that causes you to burn a timeout eliminates that plan. Means you have to go with the low probability onside kick, and means that if you don't recover it, the game is over and the 49ers win. The most important thing is having all 3 timeouts in your back pocket, and that means calling nothing but plays down here that will stop the clock if they fail. With that, the risk-reward analysis for a pass versus the risk-reward analysis for a run is shocking. Truly shocking. Let's say you throw the ball. Best case scenario, it's a touchdown. You keep all of your timeouts. You don't have to onside kick it. Worst case scenario, barring a turnover, it falls incomplete. The clock stops, you keep all of your timeouts, and if you want to, you can run it on fourth down, since the clock is irrelevant at that point, since either way, that's the last play of the drive. Let's say you run the ball, however. Best case scenario, it's a touchdown. You keep all of your timeouts, and you don't have to onside kick it. Alright, great. The same exact best case scenario as what happens if you throw the football. The worst case scenario, barring a turnover, you get stuffed. The clock is running. You have to burn a timeout, and you just lost the game, because you now have to onside kick it. If you don't recover the onside kick, the game is over, because you don't have enough timeouts to stop the 49ers. And you chose the option where you run the ball? You chose the option where you freaking run the ball? This is like the Giants-Bills game on Sunday Night Football from earlier in the season. But I didn't do a Dumb Decisions episode on that, because head coach Brian Daboll knew that this was dumb, and his quarterback completely changed the play on him. So I gave Daboll a pass because it wasn't his fault that he called something, and the players went out there and did the exact opposite. But Campbell knew this. He freaking knew this, and he decided to do it anyway. This was his call. There was no reward that was any different than throwing the football, but the risk was astronomical. Again, let's say you throw the ball in that spot, and it doesn't work out. So you go for it on fourth down, and convert it with 56 seconds left, just like it happened in real time. Let's bust out the chalkboard. You kick it off deep, so the Niners get the ball on a touchback on their own 25-yard line with 56 seconds left, and you having all of your timeouts. The first down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 52, where you call your first timeout. The second down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 48, where you call your second timeout. The third down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 44, where you call your third timeout. Let's say the Niners get 4 yards on these 3 runs, just because that's what actually ended up happening. But remember, either way, you need to get a stop no matter what, because 1 first down for the Niners ends it. Then, the Niners punt this one away, and on the season, Mitch has been averaging about 43 net yards per punt, so let's say that happens here. The punt takes 7 seconds, so you'll get it back with 37 seconds left. A 43-yard punt from a net yardage perspective, punting from their own 29-yard line, means that you, as Detroit, have the ball with 37 seconds left at your own 28-yard line, probably needing to get to the 38-yard line of San Francisco to have a shot at making a field goal for Michael Badgley. Then again, Campbell would be dumb enough to try a Hail Mary instead of the game-tying field goal because he was that aggressive on that day. But regardless, you've got to go about 35 yards in 37 seconds, which is more than doable. In other words, just by throwing the football on third down, you give yourself a realistic chance at winning. Get the touchdown, get a stop, and you don't have to move an unreasonable amount of yards to get into field goal range. You have about 5 or 6 plays to do it. You can use the middle of the field too if it's deep enough. You have a shot. Let's say you run the ball though, and you get stuffed. Congratulations. You just lost the game, unless you can successfully convert a play in the onside kick that works about 6% of the time. Because let's say you eventually score with 56 seconds left and burn a timeout, and you try the onside kick, and you feel like you have every other time this season, and you feel like every other team does. The first down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 52, where you call your second timeout. The second down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 48, where you call your third timeout. The third down run takes 4 seconds, so take it down to 44, but you don't have a timeout, so kill another 40 seconds off the clock to take it down to 4. From there, the Niners can either run the ball again, or have Brock Purdy just chuck a pass deep and out of bounds. And congratulations, you won't touch the ball again. You lost. All because you had to be dumb enough to run the ball there instead of throwing it. If you really believed in your chances of running the ball to get across the goal line, then do it on 4th down. Don't waste a down on 3rd down doing it knowing that if it fails, your odds of winning just plummeted. I wish I knew why Campbell did this, because no one asked him about this decision, even though this was way worse than the other decisions he made with the field goal, so I guess we'll never know. I guess you could give Campbell a pass for his aggression, as dumb as it was, even though I thought it was stupid, just because you live with the aggression and you die with the aggression, and that's sort of how the Lions got to this point. But this run, there's no excuse for it, none whatsoever. This wasn't in the name of being aggressive, this was just a dumb situational moment, and maybe the dumbest play called by a coach in the history of the Detroit Lions in a playoff game. I don't say it lightly. It was that bad. Look, I have to give Dan Campbell a lot of credit for getting the Lions to this point. This was a team that won 1 playoff game in the last 65 years. He got them to win 2 this year. This was the best season that they have had in the Super Bowl era, and Campbell deserves a lot of credit for that. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach, and I'm not saying he can't get guys ready for games and whatnot. But we're 3 years into the Dan Campbell experiment, and I really still question whether or not he has what it takes as an in-game manager. From an in-game management standpoint, I've never been high on Campbell, and this game did not convince me at all whatsoever. I still have my doubts on Campbell from managing the game from that perspective, because this was just atrocious. The field goals were terrible in terms of when to kick and when to go for it, and this run was one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in my life, and I do not say that lightly. So what do we learn from all of this? If you have 2 options, and both options pose the same exact reward and the same exact likelihood of getting said reward, but one option poses a significantly higher risk, then for the love of God, don't pick the option with the higher risk. Don't shoot yourself in the foot for no reason. If you have 2 options, and one option can give you a chance at winning if it fails, and the other option can't give you a chance at winning if it fails, then pick the option that gives you a chance at winning, especially if your season is on the line. If you have 2 options, and one option doesn't rely on black magic to win the game should it fail, then pick that option. Timeouts are the most valuable currency you have when you're losing, so to waste one for no reason when you're trying to mount a comeback and are trying to get great field position on your next stride is stupid. And with apologies to Pete Carroll and Marshawn Lynch, you have been dethroned. This is the new dumbest run in a playoff game down at the 1-yard line. This surpasses what you did by a million. Because when all of these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.